Hi guys. So we're starting on Unit 5 and we're going to start today by talking about sustainability. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you and we'll jump in to our PowerPoint. So here we are. Again, maybe. There we go. Okay, so we're going to talk, this is really kind of the very beginning introduction to sustainability, how we talk about it, how we measure it, and how we can measure how we're doing in terms of sustainability. So before we can do any of that, we really kind of need to talk about what we mean by sustainability. And so when we talk about something being sustainable, we mean that we're using resources in a way that does not deplete those resources for future generations. So just as when we did the tragedy of the commons simulation and we talked about not overfishing our particular fishing hole so that there would be fish available to reproduce, we want to make sure that we're using resources in a way that doesn't deplete them for future generations. So we have lots of different ways that or indicators that we can use to look at sustainability. We're going to specifically talk about 5 indicators that we can use to help us to guide us to sustainability. So the first one we're going to talk about is biological diversity. And we know that biodiversity is important. We've talked about biodiversity several times before. We've talked about different levels of biodiversity, from genetic diversity to species diversity to habitat diversity. So where are we right now? So our main indicator here is biological diversity. Recently, there have been a lot of extinctions and our extinction rate is increasing. So our current trend is not so great. And our outlook for the future is that extinctions are going to continue because the global threat of climate change is definitely changing the environment and species are not able to adapt quickly enough. And we're also taking up an awful lot of habitat space and resources. And we know that that biological diversity is important for a lot of things. When we talk about threats to biological diversity, we can use the acronym HIPCO, HIPPCO, so like a hippo, but with a C in it, so HIPCO. And those threats are H is for habitat destruction, I is invasive species, so that's a non-native species introduced by human beings, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Population dynamics, so this can be an overgrowth of a population or the dying out of a population. Pollution, usually specifically either air pollution or water pollution. Climate change, and overexploitation. So HIPCO, habitat destruction, invasive species, population dynamics, pollution, climate change, and overexploitation. And so if we think back to the tragedy of the commons simulation that we did, we were focusing on overexploitation in that particular scenario. So that's one of our indicators. Another indicator is food production. Again, can we produce enough food? This is very important to sustainability. Right now, our recent trends is that per capita production is kind of starting to level off over the last, since the 1970s, production has been increasing really, really rapidly per capita, and now it's starting to level off. And that means that the future of this particular trend is a little bit unclear. We don't know whether it's going to continue to level off and stay pretty stable per capita, or whether it's going to go back up, or whether it's going to start to fall as we run out of arable land or out of water. So that's our second indicator. Our third indicator is average global surface temperature and carbon dioxide concentration. Again, recent trend in this that it is increasing. Future prediction, it's going to continue to increase, at least in the short term. There are a lot of agreements out there that are trying to stop this increase or slow this increase, but right now there's not been significant enough changes to decrease that. Our fourth major indicator is human population. We know that the human population is still increasing, but the growth rate of that increase is decreasing. So Population is not decreasing, but the growth rate is slowing. Um, and so since the Industrial Revolution, our population has skyrocketed as we have been able to produce more food and better sanitation and better healthcare. But that population growth is starting to slow for all the reasons that we talked about during the demographic transition. And then our fifth major indicator is resource depletion. So again, recent trends, there's been a rapid depletion in a lot of our resources recently. The plus side of that is that our own ingenuity helps us to develop new resources. And we're actually increasing our efficiency of using the resources that we have. And so we have this sort of counterbalance of our resources are being depleted, but our ability to use them more efficiently and our ability to come up with replacements is increasing. And so kind of the future of this one is a little bit unknown as well. So those are the 5 main indicators of sustainability: biological diversity, food production, average global surface temperature and carbon dioxide concentration, human population, and resource depletion. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about as far as sustainability is yield. And I'll ask you again to think about our demonstration with the tragedy of the commons and the fish. So maximum sustainable yield is defined as the maximum amount of a resource that can be harvested without compromising the future availability of that resource. In other words, it's the maximum harvest that can be replaced by population growth. So when we talked about the fish example, as long as we left enough fish to reproduce for the next year, we were able to replace those fish. Very often we will look at a maximum sustainable yield as half of the carrying capacity of the environment. So you can take away half of the organisms and still continue at a sustainable level. Now, there's a lot of problems with that theory. Certainly, you cannot take half of the population of elephants away because they just don't reproduce quickly enough. It's going to be affected by those life histories, those survivorship strategies. Are they R selected species? Are they K selected species? What are the birth and death rates? What's the true carrying capacity of the system? And so maximum sustainable yield can actually have a very political connotation and can become sort of a football of sorts between countries or between factions within a country. Okay, so that's the idea behind maximum sustainable yield. Now, sustainability is certainly a key term in environmentalism and in environmental science. What we are discovering is that it's becoming very, very important to companies, to businesses as well. And so we used to always talk about in business, everything comes down to the bottom line. Does it make money or does it not make money? If it makes money, we're going to do it. If it doesn't make money, we're not going to do it. So if you think about the Onceler in the Lorax, he spoke for the people and he said, everybody wants what they need and I'm making money and the stock market likes it. And so I'm going to keep cutting down truffula trees. Very, very focused on the bottom line. What companies are finding is that they're starting to introduce this idea of the triple bottom line. And the triple bottom line is not just about profit, but also about people and the planet. And what countries and companies are finding is that when you consider the planet, then people are going to give you more profit. So you think about companies like Tesla that are making an effort to become carbon neutral or carbon negative. You think about companies that like Tom's that are putting a service to humanity out there, and people are willing to spend more money in order to support that company. And so when companies put sustainability first, it can actually increase their profit. And that's the idea behind the triple bottom line. All right, so that's it for sustainability. And if you have any questions, let me know.